You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box. What on earth is he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. I feel it. I feel it. You feel it?
Faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
Hey there, Whovians, and welcome to another episode of Earth Station Who. We're back, and we have a great one tonight for you. We're going a little bit of a different route on this one. We are going to look at the documentary, Doctor, Who Am I? Came out in 1922. Great, Mike. It came out in 2022.
Wow, it has been a while.
It has been a while since it came out. Wibbly wobbly, timey type stuff. And it's going to be a ton of fun to talk all about it. And for a lot of us, it's like a who's who of folks we know seeing in the video format and in the documentary. And it's a lot of ways, it's a big love letter to Doctor Who, which is kind of cool. And I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about it and all about it and such. We got a great crew here to chat. So, of course, we have Kirby joining us for a long time, my friend.
Hello.
How are you?
All right.
Yeah, the last time we saw you was at Concaster Burris, but it's been a while since you've actually been on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Sometime in the last year, anyway.
Yeah, very much so. I think it might have been during like Jodie's last season or something like that.
Might have been.
For some of the Flux stuff that we had you on.
Flukes.
And we have, of course, our regulars. Let's say hi to Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy.
And Ms. Mary Ogle.
Hi, everybody. It's fantastic to be here.
Feels like I just talked to you guys yesterday.
I know, doesn't it? It's all very familiar.
Oh, it is. But it's always wonderful for all three of us to get together. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We definitely would love to hear from you guys at home. Please write us feedback at earthstationwho.com. It'll be, very interesting to hear what you guys thought of the documentary. Quite a few folks had never heard about it. I was talking to a friend of mine who is a fellow Whovian, and he had never heard of the documentary. And so it's, getting the word out of it, and it's free right now if you have Amazon Prime to watch. So it's, you don't have to go through a bootleg, or you don't have to get it through other devious, ways of.
We would never do that.
No. No one on this show ever does anything like that. And Kirby's like going, God, it's getting hot in here. I don't know what you're talking about. But it's...
Well, let's just say that's how I managed to watch it the first time before it came on Prime.
Gotcha. And did this actually get... was this released at the movie theaters and such?
In the UK.
I have no idea.
In the UK?
It was in the UK for a limited release.
Gotcha. So
I think it was like October 2022.
I know it was also crowdfunded and everything, so there's a lot of cool stuff.
Some familiar names on that one too, on that crowdfunding.
Oh yeah,
including someone that we talked to yesterday on Earth Station 1.
Yes, I saw that Drew was involved with that. It's pretty awesome. Him and I had a nice little discussion about it earlier today, so it was a lot of cool stuff. So we'll get that in a few minutes. Let's hop into Doctor Who news. We're getting closer to November, folks. We are so getting closer to November. And they actually announced a new Doctor Who release. That's right. One of the Lost series has been animated, and we are getting the Underwater Menace coming.
Yay.
Finally fully animated, and we'll have it, but you'll have the option of both color and black and white. And, because they had said they weren't going to be doing anymore. So this actually gives me some hope for some of the other projects that they had, kind of announced. And so I'll be very curious to see where it goes with this. We had reviewed it way back, I think the first season of Earth Station Who. And I know we wanted to do it because it was early into the Second Doctor era, and I think it was one of the earliest ones. This was like, I think Underwater Menace is Jamie's second adventure with the Doctor. So it still had Polly and, oh, shoot, I don't remember what the other guy's name was. Ben.
He's very forgettable.
Yes. So, but it was, we had reviewed it, and it was one of those with the still images that we had to watch. And I think I dozed off twice during that episode. Watching it, I had to go back and watch it again because, I wanted to make sure I got the full story. And we've seen people cosplay as the Atlanteans and everything.
Yeah.
So, we've seen them at Hulanta, and there's been some great versions of it. But so I'm going to be very curious to see how they animate them and everything. So it should be kind of cool. And they are, as of today, they are actually taking pre-orders for it on Amazon or wherever you get your videos from and everything. I know the American Doctor Who store is taking it also. And it's interesting too, because the American Doctor Who store is also taking pre-orders for the 20th anniversary Blu-rays that they announced. And we've talked about that before, but it's not up on Amazon yet. So hopefully.
Yeah. And I definitely want the 20th anniversary.
I'm hoping they're going to put that out before the 60th. It would make sense to do that.
Yeah.
I hope so.
But, this is the BBC we're talking about. So
who knows?
So quite often you just never know with them. So, but yeah. So with Underwater Menace coming out, that also might lead into us maybe getting Wheel in Space. We might get some of the first Doctor stories that we've wanted to see animated and such. That I know they have audio. What is that, Kirby?
That is the Doctor Who 20th anniversary special. BBC. Actually, I think this is put out by Starlog here in the States, but it was the special magazine.
Gotcha.
20th anniversary.
That's pretty awesome. That is awesome. Remember, we're an audio-only podcast, so people at home.
You have to announce it.
So we haven't gone to video yet on this podcast. So, but that's pretty awesome though, and it's I think there's a lot of potential for new stuff still coming, especially now that we're getting bigger budgets, and we've talked about this before. We're getting maybe some Disney money and Sony money, and involved with the product and everything, and hopefully it encourages BBC to move forward with some of the animation stuff. So
there was that article recently in the Radio Times too, where some executives said that he's convinced that there are like the missing episodes are in private collection somewhere. So, I mean, there's always hope that we're going to get new new versions or new editions of these stories as well.
Oh,
yeah, I saw that, but I still don't believe it. Why would someone hold on to it without releasing it?
You've met collectors, right?
Yeah. Well, I can believe it. I can believe it.
When the BBC says, "Yeah, sure, we'll get it back to you," wink, wink, nod, nod. Sure, it'll be fine. Just we'll take care of it. We won't delete them like we did originally.
We'll take really good care of them, as you're saying that, but shaking their head, no.
Yeah. So and look, I wouldn't be surprised if there was somebody out there that was like, I have Marco Polo, but if you want to watch Marco Polo, you have to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's mine.
It's mine. Right. Like, oh yeah, I could see that.
And sure. They have 6 copies of the Mona Lisa as well.
Exactly.
Well,
it could happen, it definitely can happen. It could be, a Time Lord probably has all the copies of them. He went back and grabbed them. A time traveler from the future, like, we've got to go back and save Doctor Who. So a future generation will have it, but not us. So I'm hoping in our lifetime we'll be able to see every single episode of Doctor Who. That would be amazing.
Well, after tonight, I will have seen everything that is available. I'm going to finish the last episode of the last story I have not seen. So,
and what is that story, Kirby?
What is it's the Wheel in Space?
Okay,
which I was unavailable when the 20 Megabyte Doctor Who podcast talked about it, and so I ended up not watching the reconstruction and skipped it for years.
Okay.
So I'm finally getting around to it.
Gotcha. So awesome. That's pretty amazing that you know, there's certain ones I just can't bring myself to watch because, you know, Trial of a Time Lord is.
Yeah.
Well, Time Lord's got some good things.
No. And I actually just purchased the Colin Baker Blu-rays of those. I'm not watching them, but you know,
but you have them.
You got it for the extras.
Okay.
It's me, the collector, for the collector in me, and hence the collector comment before.
Exactly. Yeah, we were just talking about how collectors are weird. So, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I get it. We all are, right?
Yeah,
So.
exactly. You know, we're completists. You know, we want to have the complete series, and these collectors, you know, they might have, you know, the whole series, and you know, they might have Marco Polo, they might have Highland Aries, you know, they might have, you know, Wheel in Space and whatever else is missing.
Yeah,
and, you know,
not, there's still a lot, but there's not. I mean, it's not that much that's missing. So
not as much as you
still have hope every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. No, most definitely, and so definitely we'll have to figure it out. And I love what they're doing with the Blu-rays, and I love the restorations they're doing with the cartoons. So, you know, it's a good time to be a Whovian, as we like to say. So, I mean, just the waiting for new stuff is just killing us.
Yes.
I feel like we spend most of our life just waiting for the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's like waiting for a very slow train to get to you.
Right.
I was at CVS the other day getting a prescription. I was remembering it's probably about 10 years ago. I was in that CVS and looking over at a magazine rack, and there were 3 things with Doctor Who on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And now nobody seems to pay any attention to it. But hopefully it will be coming back with this Disney Plus.
Well, hoping. I actually had heard a rumor about that with Disney Plus, that HBO might still have the new series episodes, but Disney will have basically from the 60th anniversary going forward as of their service. I don't know if
it's possible. We'll they haven't really told us what they're going to have and what they won't have yet. So
I mean, who knows? They haven't said anything.
They haven't, you know, and I know BritBox is still going to have old series.
Yeah.
Well, we assume so.
We assume so.
We don't know that for sure.
But, you know, the only ones I know it's not going to have is BBC America anymore. And so,
right.
So we're still up in the air as much as you guys are. And I'm sure probably Disney's going to make the announcement as soon as we finish recording this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
the
second.
Well, if it all stays on Max, I'm fine because I get Max free with my my fiber internet.
That makes sense.
So, and I of course I have Disney Plus, so I'll be able to watch anything like that. And I've been watching that The Wheel of Space on BritBox.
True. So very cool. So, unless we have any other news, let's drop into Doctor Who Am I?
That's Doctor Who Am I?
Yes.
This is the best place to drown your sorrows. You know? 3,000 Whovians and lots and lots of booze.
The American fans. They are the diehards.
Balls to the wall kind of attitude.
All through medical school, I was still kind of the closet Whovian.
We're just a normal couple. We just got married 2 years ago.
As I was writing that Doctor, I was pouring myself into that character. I was pouring my experience of the Doctor as a child and all the wit and all the warmth and all that sort of love that the Doctor has of humans. I was pouring into this character and I was loving doing it. I was putting myself on the line there.
Someone wrote to me and said, You got it the wrong way round.
Yeah.
Pedants. Don't you just love them? My Doctor, the 8th Doctor, has been mainly on audio all these years.
Right.
So I play the Doctor on the radio.
And you've been alive as a Doctor, you've been alive for longer than any other Doctor.
The longest and the shortest.
Yeah.
That's what they call me.
Hey there. Hey, I'm back. Oh, this is hard to find. And look at that. No sex, please. He's British.
No sex, please. He's Matthew Jacobs.
Yes, okay.
The nature of obsessive zealot fandom is something I'm interested in.
Yeah, because there are people that's what they do.
Yeah.
All year round.
Exactly.
Every day.
And we're cogs in that wheel.
Yeah.
Pretty much, the documentary focuses on Matthew Jacobs, who actually wrote the TV movie, and he's actually written many other things that a lot of us have seen. And it's an interesting thing because he also is basically a second generation Whovian because his father was in the Gunfighters.
Mm-hmm.
And
his father played Doc Holliday in the Gunfighters.
Yeah, that was very interesting to find out. I had no idea he had that connection.
No, I didn't either until I watched this.
Yeah. Still doesn't make me love the Gunfighters.
No.
But, you know.
What, you don't want to Steven? Come on.
I noticed they didn't show any of the singing parts.
Thank God. No, but it was neat. It was neat to see a lot of people in this documentary that we've interviewed or we've met in person or that we're friends with. And, it was a neat thing between, going between Gallifrey, the con in Los Angeles, and Long Island Who in New York. And as of this recording, this coming weekend is actually Long Island Who.
Ah.
So it's pretty cool what they have going on. And his reaction, because this was going to his first con, and he expected to get yelled at and spit on, and because
he knew his reputation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it was interesting that he did that and everything, and his reaction to it, and his reaction to the fans and the people. People were teasing him a little bit about it, but overall the reaction to him was very positive and everything. And it was nice also to see, of course, you saw Paul McGann in this. You also saw Daphne Ashbrook and Eric Roberts. And, they have all good things to say about the gentleman. Of course, the camera was on them, so of course they were good.
Of course, Matthew Jacobs not only is the subject of this, but he's also the director and writer and producer and everything like that. So, it's pretty. It's not really objective,
right?
Like you said, Mike, there's a lot that's familiar in this. I mean, I've never been to Gallifrey One. I've never been to Long Island, but I mean. This looked like Hulante. It looked like Chicago TARDIS. It looked like Con-K. It looked like Dragon Con. I mean, it looked like these conventions are very similar in vibe, and there's a lot of familiarity for me watching a documentary like this.
Definitely, and it was interesting when they were walking around. When they were walking around Gallifrey, I was like, "Oh, maybe Mary and I are there." So,
were you there the year that he was there?
Not that year.
No,
gotcha.
I think
that was a lot more recent.
Because I think he was there in 2016, filming a lot of this.
Gotcha.
And I think we were there in 2015.
Yeah, wasn't it 2015?
I think the year before.
I'm pretty sure he was there after us.
But it still had the same vibe. It still had,
still looked exactly like I remember Gallifrey One.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean,
early on in it, there was an Ood walking around going, "Oh, I could have."
It was like, "Is that Kirby?"
Yeah, I almost came on wearing my Ood head for you guys, but I knew it was an audio podcast.
And that head's pretty hot, I bet.
Oh yes, I saw him at Concaster Burris wearing it. multiple times, and he was covered in sweat afterwards.
Yeah, poor Kirby.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He was suffering for his art.
What was your guys' reaction to the film initially, like watching it and everything? Did you, because he actually seemed like he went through a transformation on his opinion of Whovians even.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was a lot more personal than I thought it was going to be. I mean, personal to him.
Yeah.
And the way he's evolved. And he has a very complicated relationship with Doctor Who, and not always a good relationship. It has a lot to do with his father and
actually his mother also, who committed suicide.
Yes, his mother. Like any human being, he has all these, these bad memories sort of wrapped around Doctor Who, and probably including, the reaction he got for writing the TV movie. And yet he's a fan. I mean, he truly loves Doctor Who. And so that had to be, watching him kind of go through that kind of push and pull, that love-hate relationship, and being afraid of not being accepted, and yet in the end very much being accepted as a fan. It was kind of beautiful to watch.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. It was.
Wow, I had the completely opposite reaction.
No, because like you were making faces.
That's okay. You can have
talking.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry because I know that's what they were going for, and I know that a lot of that is I'm not arguing necessarily with a lot of things you're saying, but I questioned the sincerity of it. I couldn't help but feel like this was another documentary where they were making fun of fans. We don't understand them. They're weird. Look how crazy they are. Look how look how broken these people. At one point, they even say everybody that they're meeting, something's wrong with them. And yet they cling to Doctor Who because that helps them either escape from it or deal with it or find a community where they can relate to other people. And I was just like, not everybody, that's not what this community is about, at least in my experience. And, we never really find out exactly why he made the choices that he did writing the TV movie and making those decisions that are so controversial. For being a fan of Doctor Who, we don't know exactly why he did what he did. Even though, he and the producer seemed to kind of high five each other, like, we really screwed the fans on that. Isn't that funny? I also found that, I didn't really need to see him get out of bed and brush his teeth and put on his contacts and all that kind of stuff. And then at the end, he just sort of says, this is a great community, but I don't want to be any part of it because I feel like that'll just be repeating my past over and over again. And I don't want to do that. And it's like, wow. So you just found out that this is a really great community that is accepting of you, but you don't want anything to do with. How interesting that is. I found that it was I didn't like him, actually. I found that after meeting Matthew Jacobs, I found that I didn't like him very much.
Interesting, because I didn't get that same feeling.
I didn't either.
No. I thought he was, I thought it was great. A lot of these people, I thought it was very inspiring. People telling them how they found Doctor Who, and it brought meaning to what they were different. They were the outcasts, and meeting and finding Doctor Who, it brought, special feelings to them. And then they met their friends through the cons and through online and also mutual interests and stuff. And, I would have killed to know other Doctor Who fans when I was in high school. I didn't know any. And kids these days are lucky as heck to have that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I was getting from the movie too. That, how it's all a community and bringing all together. And so it was that's interesting that that's the way you felt. He wasn't, I agree with what you said, Mike, that he didn't have the most kindest things to say about the community and how, what he was saying.
I don't think he really understands them.
No, I don't think he does, and to a point, but I don't think he was putting them down. at all and everything.
I was
Everybody-
upset when he went to that one fan's house and the one fan was making fun of him.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy was a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, granted, there's ways that you can ask questions, but that guy was an absolute jerk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. Talk about yeah. I
I hate
was like,
you, but I kind of like you.
I mean, maybe you don't like the decisions that he made, but the guys in your house or the guys in your face, like, don't disrespect him that way, because if you do, you're never going to get a real answer to your question. As far as why,
yeah,
and
exactly.
he never does. Like, yeah, he doesn't want an answer because he doesn't care.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't think that this was a documentary about the community as much as it was about Matthew Jacobs. And I mean, to Mary's point, I mean, he does go through a journey here, even though he insists that, he doesn't change. He goes through this experience, and he says, I'm no different than I was before. Although there's some kind of video evidence that might be false. But then at the end, like I said, he's like, I don't see myself doing this, which is not the point of these conventions. The point of these conventions isn't to wallow as a community over the past things over and over again. It's to move forward with the community. And he doesn't get that at all.
Well, I feel like, it's interesting you say that. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, at least not entirely, because I agree. He does not come across as likable.
Mm-mm.
And I turned to my sister and I said, this guy is the weirdest mix of insightful and completely unself-aware as he could be, because as he's saying that these people are broken, he very obviously is one of the people who's broken.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, I agree with that.
I completely agree with that, Mary.
Yeah, there's two conversations in the movie. One where he has a conversation just with Paul McGann, and another where he has a conversation with Daphne Ashbrook, where Paul and Daphne seem more in connection with the fans than he does.
Oh yeah, but they've also been doing it a lot longer than he at this point, and they love having the fans, and even Paul came out in the movie and said he's the longest running doctor if you go by Big Finish.
Yep.
Yeah, he is.
And and he was like, it's because of the TV movie that he has to thank for that and everything. And so it was real interesting to see that. And Daphne was as dingy as always, We saw her at Pensacon, she was all over the place, and she plays so well off of both Eric and also Paul. And you saw that even in this movie though, too. How they're polar opposites in that way. And
have you interviewed her?
We have not yet.
Yeah.
You've interviewed Paul.
20 Megabyte has had her on 3 times.
Nice.
And she's a wonderful guest.
Oh, I've talked to her like in person, and she is an amazing person. She is just what you see up on stage that's the person you get. It's not like an act. And she's genuine, which is wonderful. And, just thinking what we could have gotten with the Doctor and Grace, store adventures would have been amazing. So it would have been great to see. It was neat to see, people we knew in the movie, like Andrew Cartnell. We saw Ken Deep. We saw, so many other folks that, we know and, that we've spoken to or friends with. And it's, I was almost expecting to see Drew Meyer up there too. I was surprised not to. And talking to Drew today,
his name was on the credits. That's for sure.
Well, he was around when they were doing the Long Island Who filming, and he just said that all his scenes were cut. And it's like story of a lot of our lives, extras or in other movies.
He just wasn't weird enough.
Exactly.
I mean, I noticed that they talked to, they highlighted all the fans that were dressed weird, like that kind of thing. They really didn't talk to many people that were just not like spectacular looking.
Like it's the most interest for on screen. Of course they're going to do that.
Well, but I think it it portrays a bit of it skews it a bit, right? It's like it tells everybody who's not part of it, like, hey, if you don't dress up, you're, like, I know that they made in the documentary, they make the criticism, or not criticism, but observation that in Britain people don't really dress up, like it's not like America where people dress up all the time. I saw like a review from, like, I guess it was The Guardian, that kind of slapped a critique on this because it ignores the phenomenon of Doctor Who in other countries. And I'm like, that's not really the point of this documentary. I mean, that was kind of
fault them for that.
Yeah, that was kind of stupid. But then I saw a thing from the Radio Times that said that it said, quote, it's touching humility as to how Jacobs carries himself. And I'm like, did they watch the same documentary as I did? Because I'm like, that guy is not humble at all. Like, he is not walking around with humility. So I just thought, like, some of the direction was weird. Like I said, the choices that they made, like of having him wake up and show him, like, getting ready in his hotel room. I'm like, that's kind of like too personal. The last shot, like after the credits, of the costume people going in to, I guess, perform or something. And I was like, that's kind of a weird thing to end with. Like, it felt like the documentary was kind of like unfocused at times. I think they were trying to humanize him. I think that was the point of that. I'm not saying that was the most effective way to do it, but I think that was the point of it. Like, I don't like this guy enough to want to wake up with him in a hotel room. I mean, I feel like...
And since it was obviously staged, that's also weird.
Well, of course, yes.
The whole scene with his kids coming over to help him move and everything. It's like, so many people, oh, the movers are showing up today. Let's start packing now, Well,
yeah.
I know, right? I tell you what, the footage was with the family was touching, and I kept feeling this sense of foreboding, like when the kid was playing with the knife and whatever, and I was like, is something going to happen to the kid or something? Like, this is really kind of, I know, like, I'm like, where are they going with this? And it is, I mean, he's human, and I get it, and I know that's important for his journey, but I don't, like I said, I just felt like it was kind of, a lot of this stuff was just put in there at random.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I think it was neat for folks who've never been to one of the Who cons or any of the big cons where, people cosplay and everything. I think it was a good experience. And it was also great being able to see the the pictures and such of, like, the bad, the ribbons and everything that everybody had at Gallifrey and everything. Because that was the first place I had ever seen the ribbons and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it makes the conventions look really, really small and intimate, which, our experience.
Gallifrey 1 is very small and intimate.
Yeah. And it is interesting because, I mean, that's one of the biggest ones, right? In the country. And yet it still seems like it's about as small as intimate as Concave.
Well, they keep it deliberately small.
Yeah, it's only a little over 3,000 people.
Yeah,
it's very small.
And also, it's in the basement of a Marriott. It's not a big location, for Gallifrey. I was actually first time I went to it, I was shocked how small it was. I expected it to be like Dragon Con size or something. And in all truth, it was the same size as Hulanta,
I'd love to go to Gallifrey.
It's worth it to go at least once.
But how do you get a membership?
Well, actually, it's easier now. They haven't sold out.
No, they haven't sold out the last couple of years. And they've had some amazing guests too. So
that hotel has some special memories to me. Even though I haven't been to that convention, we stopped and stayed at that particular hotel, had that view of the airport on our way to China to adopt our youngest daughter, and on the way back.
Awesome. That is awesome.
That's a great memory.
Absolutely.
I've got great memories about that convention and some really bad ones too.
Well, you were having kind of a cursed convention that year.
Yes, I was. And then we also had the cursed Uber also.
Yes.
At that year.
That was just so bizarre.
Mm-hmm. But it was interesting to see everything, and it brought back some smiles to my face seeing that. But that's not what the movie was about. It was about him and, his interaction with everyone. And like we said, his interactions with the people, there was only one or two people who were like jerks to him. Overall, it was, him dreading everything, him, I don't know.
There's a lot of people who just didn't know who he was,
Exactly.
which is fair. I mean, he's, that's the life of a writer, right?
Yeah.
Like he's just,
unless you're wearing a sign saying "I wrote
Exactly.
blah blah."
Exactly.
I'm the reason that Doctor Who was half human, Then
well, you don't want to wear that sign.
Yeah.
No, that's not the
at
sign
all.
you want to wear.
Yeah.
But, and look, I mean, as much as people were, still continue to bitch and moan, it didn't kill the franchise. I mean, the franchise has moved on quite well and gotten over it. So it's not like it's, when he says he's infamous or whatever, and I'm like, maybe with some fans, but I'm like, that's kind of overstating it.
It was interesting.
That wasn't the reason that it didn't get picked up. I mean, they kind of act like those two things made sure that the pilot stayed a pilot and not a series. And I'm like, those aren't the reasons that didn't become a series.
Yeah. When he said that, I was talking at the screen. I was like, no, the script was bad, Matthew. It was really bad. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't hate you personally or anything, but it was just bad.
It was. It really was.
I remember watching the movie. I recorded the movie, watched it a few days later when it first was on, and I went, okay. It wasn't the greatest. I thought, hey, maybe it's coming back, maybe not. And I don't even remember what my reaction was about the half human thing, because that was 96.
Yeah.
Or 97.
I think I didn't know enough about Doctor Who to know if that was at that point. I mean, I'd watched it, but I didn't know enough about the series to know if that was actually canon or not. So I didn't, that the kiss kind of took me back, because I was like, I don't think that's happened before. But I didn't hate it. I just was like, oh, I don't think that's happened before. And, but like everybody else who, watched it, I was hoping for more, and didn't quite get it. And, but I think we all agree none of it was Paul's fault at all. I think we all think that Paul was probably if there's anything that comes out of that movie, it's Paul McGann.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. It was totally worth it to get Paul McGann.
Oh,
yes. The Doctor Who
it got us a regeneration that we wanted to see.
Yeah, yes. And they didn't mention this in the documentary, but I mean, it does actually tie in, because we do see Sylvester in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, that was a controversial call too.
Oh, he shot Sylvester.
Having
literally
him get gunned down, but they didn't even talk about that. But so I mean, you kind of, I don't know, maybe he doesn't have to answer all those questions, but I thought if you're going to make a documentary about some of the decisions you made, it seems to me that, you should probably try to put explanations.
One of the things that made me feel really old during this, watching the documentary, is when they were sitting around at the table and only one person at that table had actually watched it when it was on live.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I know, right?
And I was like, oh, God. And it's like, oh, okay, all right, let me go get my walker and my Geritol.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a reason why people are not as fanatic about it anymore as they used to be. For one, we've had a lot of new Who since then. People now look back on it as with kind of a nostalgia. And and I think everyone likes having Paul McGann around.
Yeah. Well, and it's and it's interesting too, because we had the whole half human thing, we had the drag queen master, but since then we've had the farting aliens, we've had the Absorb-A-Lot, we've had so much more. So it's all become faded memories and everything for a lot of people. And a lot of people who watch the new series have never even watched the movie. That's the sad thing too.
And they mentioned in the documentary, a lot of people haven't seen any classic Who.
Yeah. That was at one of the panels, that young lady.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about that.
Yeah. They referenced two things in the movie which I thought were kind of interesting, and I would imagine that Kirby would probably be more up on these than anybody else I know. But they refer to the book that in which Jacobs claims that he was slandered in the making of the movie about his script and everything, which he is so keen to sign, by the way.
Yeah,
yeah, I noticed
and
that.
They mentioned. And they mentioned the documentary that the producer kind of like blasts the script and everything, although they don't mention that when they reunite. So I thought it was kind of interesting. Those are two pieces of Doctor Who fandom or that I am not that familiar with. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kirby has that book right on his shelf.
No, I had actually not heard of the book until I saw it on the movie.
And then he ordered it.
And no, it cost $400.
Holy
no!
No,
it's out of print. You cannot get it.
Oh, goodness gracious. Goodness. Okay. Well, I don't know if the movie
I looked it up immediately.
I wonder if the movie bumped that price up, if since the movie came out, if people would have been looking for it.
The movie wasn't that well.
No, there's just some books that are hard to find.
Doctor Who fans though, if it's a movie, they're like, oh, I don't have that. All of a sudden they'll look and there's a demand for it out of a sudden, right? And then, of course, the other, like I said, I guess it was a documentary made about the movie, and in which, like I said, the producer said some pretty negative things about the script and everything. So.
Yeah, I remember they mentioned that, but I don't remember what the documentary was called.
Yeah, I can't remember that either.
I probably have it someplace. I don't remember it.
No, it's interesting, and it was interesting, how quickly he was like, oh yeah, I'll sign it. Who do you want me to sign it to? No problem. And people were coming up to him, like, oh, you're the one who wrote that? Well done. Stuff like that. And it was just like, but it was just like, and then the voiceover was like, well, these fans are just very confusing to me. And it's like, okay, well, there you go. But
what does he say? He's sort of sitting there by himself at some point, because we all have that point during, especially slow conventions or small conventions, when everybody's at the panels or whatever, and he's just looking around and he's like, everybody here seems to be making money off the franchise, and then he has the nerve to call like all the other writers that are there pathetic or something like that. And he includes himself in that group.
Mid-range writers.
Yeah, and he includes himself in that group, but I was like, man, you are not winning me over as a friend of yours, sir.
Oh, it's craziness. It is craziness. I would recommend this to see from any Whovian. It is. Yes. It is a neat experience to see. You even get to see Graham Norton. You see David Tennant, and you also get to see Matt Smith in it too. I didn't realize Tennant had a ponytail like that. If that was real. When he was on,
yeah, I think that was for a part. I kind of vaguely remember that he had that for a part.
It probably was like a weave or something. Because I doubt David would grow his hair out that long.
I mean, probably not. But
but and I love, because I remember seeing that episode of Graham Norton, and the guy had the signatures on his tattoo, and his tattoo was fairly similar. I know we're not videoing and showing my TARDIS one. But, how he had the signatures of I think most of the living doctors.
Yeah, I think he did.
And Tennant signed his arm so he could have it tattooed almost immediately.
Yep, which is pretty awesome.
He said that at that point, the only one he was missing was Chris, which, at that point, probably that was right before Chris started doing conventions. So I'd imagine, I hope he's got that one locked up now, too.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. I think that would be really awesome for him. And, and I loved how they were showing like the different families with how they're bringing young Whovians in and everything. I did the same thing with William, and I know Kirby, you did that with your daughters and everything.
Yeah.
So, and it's pretty awesome seeing the multi-generational stuff, and they did represent that in the movie and everything.
I just wish my daughters were interested now.
Well, same thing with William. So, there you go.
Well, my oldest loves Classic Who. If she discovers I'm watching Classic Who, she's down here in my geek room immediately, and I point out to her that there's Classic Who is running on couple of the live stream TV,
like Pluto TV and such.
Pluto, Pluto, and also Plex,
right,
are running. And I thought, they've got to be running the same things at the same time. No, they're not.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I don't know where they must be dipping into a database to pull them up.
I did love the baby Dalek carriage. I thought that
was adorable.
Yes,
pretty
that
adorable.
Was cool.
That
was really adorable.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was a neat experience, and if you get a chance, folks, like I said, it's on Amazon. Do you want to rate this 1 out of 5 TARDISes? 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Let's have Kirby go first.
4, because of all the Doctor Who conventions I've been to, it made me remember how great a time I've had at Doctor Who conventions, particularly this last Con K. That was fantastic.
It was a great con.
That was one of my best times at a Doctor Who convention.
Well, you were a center of attention there, my friend.
No, not just that. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to our having John Barrowman on the podcast.
I did.
That was just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there were things about the documentary that were weird. And so that kept it from being a 5 for me. But it was interesting. I was glad I've now watched it, 3 times.
Okay.
I'll probably watch it again. I may bring my oldest daughter down here and have her watch.
Gotcha. All right, Mr. Mike, you're up.
I'm gonna give it 3. It was fun to see familiar faces, and it was an interesting look. Ultimately, I questioned some of the things that the documentary handled, as well as I think the main subject, Matthew Jacobs, is not somebody that I really what's the word? I guess just like. so it's a bit difficult, to follow him where when I'm not really a fan. And that was before, I brought nothing into this. I didn't dislike him because he wrote the TV movie, or I had no thoughts about him whatsoever until I sat down and watched this. And then through the course of this, I was just like, wow, I don't really think I like this guy very much. And it's cool. I don't have anything personally against him. But there was some quirky decisions. And I think it was kind of portrayed the fandom a little bit skewed, I think. But ultimately, it's an interesting thing to watch.
Awesome. Mary?
I think I would also give it a 4. And I think mostly because I actually find Matthew Jacobs kind of fascinating to watch. I mean, he's a mess. It's a bit like watching a car wreck happening, because this guy is not a happy person, and he has got a lot of unhappy memories, good and bad memories. It's complicated surrounding Doctor Who, and I think that actually made him, that really humanized him and made him interesting to watch. And I also, for the thing, I agree, there's times when he's rolling his eyes at the fans. And, but I also get the feeling that, this is a really insecure guy, and he is kind of envious in a way of, the freedom that they have. He's very, sort of uptight. And so, as a character study, I actually found it pretty interesting, and I would recommend it. And plus, it's just fun to watch Gallifrey 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I would definitely recommend it.
Oh yeah, it felt like they were more at Gallifrey 1 than they were even at Long Island Who.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And everything, because so it was. I appreciated that more. I'm going to do a 3.5 on it. It was entertaining. It was neat seeing a lot of familiar faces, but at the same time, I didn't like him. He was not a likable guy, and I don't disagree with a lot of the stuff. And it was enjoyable watching, but by the end of it, it was almost like, okay, how much longer is this documentary in some ways? And I do recommend it, and I'll probably watch it again just to see what I missed, watching it the first time. But I do recommend it, and it's neat to show that how much I do miss a good Doctor Who convention.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't have all this different stuff already planned for next year, I probably would say, maybe ESW needs to make a return to Gallifrey next year or something. So who knows? We might show up. You never know. It is worth going to a Doctor Who con. I know there's a Doctor Who con down in Florida. I know the big ones, of course, are Chicago TARDIS in the U.S. And then there's also Long Island Who and Gallifrey are the big ones. So definitely would recommend somebody to go to that. So definitely would love to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of it? Have you guys watched it? Feedback at ourstationwho.com is the best way to get in touch with us on that. All right, folks, that's going to wrap up this episode. Kirby, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Anything you want to promote?
Well, I'm one of the co-presenters on the 20 Megabyte Doctor Who podcast. We've been doing the podcast for almost as long as you guys, I think. And we are still making our way through a rewatch of everything and talking about it.
We made it. How far have you guys made it?
We just did the Muppets Take. The Angels Take Manhattan.
The Muppets Take Manhattan.
And so, and we're going to be recording Snowmen next week.
Awesome. Definitely check it out, folks. 20 Megabyte Doctor Who podcast. And of course, our regulars. Thank you guys so much. Mr. Mike Gordon, we've made it through another one.
We did. And as always, it's my pleasure.
And Ms. Mary Ogle, we've made it through another one also.
Yes. It was a lot of fun to talk about.
Most definitely. Anything you want to shout out about?
You can find my artwork at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Excellent, folks. Well, folks, thank you guys for listening. You could find us wherever fine podcasts are found. Just look up Earth Station Who. We also have a great Facebook group where we're posting jokes, news stories when there is news stories, or memes, and people are posting other things from other groups, and it's just a lot of fun in that group. You should join in with us. We definitely would love to have you guys be part of the action. Until next time, folks, my name is Mike Faber. On behalf of myself, Kirby Bartlett-Sloan, Mr. Michael Gordon, and Ms. Mary Ogle, we will see you here next time on Earth Station Who. Peace, and we are adjourned.
Woo! You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talents from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You can subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
ask yourself, is the Flopcast the right podcast for you?
Do you have trouble picking a favorite Weird Al song, Karate Kid sequel, or Justice League Detroit member? Are you obsessed with Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch, Vicky the captain's daughter from the Love Boat?
Or Vicky the robot from Small Wonder?
Do you think Cyndi Lauper's We Are the World solo is the most important event in history?
You have half an hour a week for something completely stupid.
Then the Flopcast might be the right podcast for you.
We're on the ESO Network
and at flopcast.net.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.